What giants are you facing in your life? And the question I have for you is, do you need the confidence to face them? When I think of confidence, I think of King David, but before he was a king. Imagine thousands of people have the opportunity, when up against the Philistines, to fight the giant, and no one wanted to do it. And here David comes in, a shepherd boy. He comes in and he's like, I'm going to do it. And they all look at him and they think, how are you going to fight this giant? But David had the confidence to do it. And not only did he want to fight the giant, but when they gave him the armor to go out to battle, he wanted to fight the giant without the armor. And then on top of that, when they gave him all the weapons to fight the giant, again, he declined those weapons and he said, I'm just going to use these smooth stones to go and fight the giant. It's definitely David who I think of when I think of the confidence that I want to do what God has asked me to do in life. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, yeah, David probably was just a confident kid on his own. But that's not what David says when they ask how it is that he's going to fight the giant. Because in 1 Samuel 17:34, it says, but David said to Saul, your servant used to keep his father's sheep, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, he says, I went after it and struck it and delivered the lamb from its mouth, and when it arose against me, I caught it by its beard and struck and killed it. Your servant has killed both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. So moreover, David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. So we see that David did all these amazing things, and he reminded them of all these amazing things that he did going against lion and bear. But then he also reminded him, but it was the Lord who delivered me from the hand of these animals. So we have to realize, yeah, we need natural confidence, but to really do what God has called us to do and accomplish these things, we have to rely on the confidence that God gives us to do these things, because we're never going to be able to do it without God confidence. One thing that happens when we go about doing these things that God has called us to do is sometimes there's voices that get in our mind that discourage us or tell us that we're not good enough, or we're not strong enough, or we're not qualified enough to do what God has called us to do. And it might be the voices around you, like David. It was all the natural voices around him that were trying to discourage him from doing everything that he knew that he could do with God's strength. So sometimes it's the people around us, but sometimes it's you and your own voice that's telling you you're not good enough, you're not qualified enough, you're not strong enough. We can't listen to the voices around us or the voices inside our own natural mind that are discouraging us from doing everything that God has called us to do. But we have to remind ourselves, if God has called us to do it, he's going to qualify us to do it, because he doesn't call the qualified, but God qualifies the called. And if you're called, he's going to qualify you to do it. So we need to be listening to God's voice and understanding what it is that he's called us to do, and then relying on God's confidence to do it. So one thing that I want to point out about David is he had all these natural circumstances that happened in his life that prepared him for this ultimate moment of defeating the giant. You have to look back on your life and see all the natural things that you have done in your life that are preparing you to face this giant in your life. And then you also have to say, well, how do I get this God confidence? It's line upon line, precept upon precept. God is constantly showing himself faithful in our lives. So you have to look back on your life and say, okay, when was it that God gave me supernatural peace? When is it that God gave me supernatural confidence? When is it that God gave me supernatural love or joy or courage or all these amazing things? And then you take all these situations that happen in your life, when he's given you that peace, or when he's given you that love, or when he's given you that strength, and you just build upon each one of those events. And as you go through this faithfulness that God shows you in each situation in your life, you can draw back on those situations and say, yeah, you're right. God did give me supernatural strength. Boom. That's this layer in this confidence. Or you're right. God did give me supernatural strength. Or God did give me that supernatural peace. And when you realize the faithfulness that God has had in your life, when he calls you to do something in your life, you draw back on those situations that God has shown himself faithful in your life, and you build upon those. And it's from those situations that you're able to build that confidence in your life to accomplish everything that God has called for you. So take all those situations and apply them to your life and realize that if God has called you to do it, he's going to qualify you to do it. So I ask you again, what giants are you facing in life? And as you pray and ask God to remind you of his faithfulness and his goodness and all the things that he has supplied you with in your life, I'm going to pray with you that you have that confidence to face those giants in your life. And just like David, that God would give you that supernatural confidence, that you wouldn't be listening to the voices around you, that you wouldn't be listening to the negative voices in your mind that discourage you from doing it, but you would say, God, give me the confidence, that supernatural confidence, that God confidence that I need to face those giants. And when you rely on God, you're going to see all these amazing things that can start happening in your life.